Imagine a celestial being so glorious, so powerful, that his light rivaled the sun itself, an angel of indescribable beauty, whose voice resonated like a divine orchestra and whose authority stretched across the realms of heaven. This was Lucifer before the fall. But what caused the brightest of angels to become the greatest symbol of evil? The story of Lucifer is not just a tale of rebellion and punishment. It hides details that have been erased or distorted over the centuries. Who was he before becoming Satan? What was his position in heaven? And more importantly, what led him to challenge the Creator himself? The truth is that Lucifer was not just any angel. He was an anointed cherub, one of the highest beings in the celestial hierarchy. His name means bearer of light, and his presence radiated splendor and wisdom. In the scriptures and apocryphal texts, we find clues about his true position. Ezekiel 28:12 describes a celestial figure adorned with precious stones, established as a guardian at God's very throne. Isaiah 14:12-14 speaks of the fall of a shining star, a being who sought to rise above the stars and become like the Most High. But before his rebellion, Lucifer was not a villain. On the contrary, he was a supreme leader among the angels, a commander of celestial praise, and even an administrator of divine justice. His brilliance was unmatched, his intelligence admirable, his power immeasurable. Now imagine the impact of his fall. How could such a magnificent being transform into the figure we now know as Satan? If you think you know the story of Lucifer, wait until you discover the hidden details behind his rebellion. What really happened in heaven? Keep watching to understand the origin of the greatest cosmic conflict of all time. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss anything. Everything seemed perfect in heaven. Lucifer shone like a celestial prince, his voice heard in songs that filled the divine realms, and his presence radiated an incomparable splendor. But within him, a thought began to emerge, a forbidden thought. He looked at himself and saw his own grandeur. He knew he was beautiful, powerful, and admired by countless angels. But an unsettling question began to dominate his mind. Why should I serve? Why can't I rule? This question was the spark for a plan that would forever change the fate of the universe. Slowly, Lucifer began to convince other angels that the celestial government needed a new order. Texts like Isaiah 14:13-14 reveal the true desire that was born in his heart. I will ascend to the heavens. Above the stars of God, I will exalt my throne. I will be like the Most High. Lucifer wanted God's throne. He believed he could reign over everything and everyone, but he knew that directly challenging the Creator was impossible. So he was clever. He used the most powerful weapon there is, persuasion. Imagine a being with colossal intelligence and hypnotic beauty arguing that there was a better way than God's. Imagine the words he used to convince other angels that they were being controlled, that they could have freedom, that they could be gods of themselves. This raises one of the most debated questions. Was Lucifer really the villain, or was he just someone seeking freedom? For many, he was an aspiring tyrant. For others, he may have been a revolutionary. With seductive promises, he gathered followers. Not a few. Biblical tradition and some apocryphal texts suggest that a third of the angels in heaven were convinced to rebel. Imagine the impact of this. An innumerable number of celestial beings, once faithful, now questioning the divine government. But Lucifer didn't realize he was about to make the fatal mistake. God knew everything. Nothing escapes the Creator's gaze. And at the right moment, the rebellion was discovered. What happened next was an unprecedented event. The war in heaven was about to begin. What happened when Lucifer confronted God? What was the battle like that divided the heavenly realm? Subscribe and leave your like if you haven't already, and let's continue. The heaven that was once a realm of perfect harmony now became a battlefield. The unthinkable had happened. Angels against angels, light against darkness, order against rebellion. Lucifer, with his legion of followers, believed he could take the throne. He was no longer just a rebellious angel. Now he saw himself as a leader, a liberator, a new ruler ready to seize the supreme power. But he had underestimated the strength of the celestial realm. And then came the one Lucifer did not expect to find in his path, Archangel Michael. In Revelation 12:7-9, one of the most epic moments in spiritual history is recorded. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail. Lucifer, the most brilliant angel, was now called the dragon. The symbolic title showed that his light had become corrupted. He was no longer a bearer of light, but a being consumed by his own ambition. The heavens trembled. Lightning cut through the celestial realms as Lucifer's forces and Michael's engaged in a cosmic battle. The strength of each side was colossal, but something became clear. Lucifer could not win. He was powerful, but he was not omnipotent. He was influential, but he was not the creator. His rebellion was destined to fail. Then came the final blow. Divine force swept the rebellious angels from the heavens. Like a falling star, Lucifer was cast into the depths, into a domain he had never known before, Earth. The bearer of light had become the prince of darkness. His name was no longer Lucifer. Now he was Satan, the adversary, the deceiver, the accuser. But what happened to Lucifer after the fall? Did he accept his new condition or continue to challenge the Creator? The story is far from over, so subscribe and leave your like to continue with the secret plans of the fallen angel and his revenge against humanity. What happens when a being who once stood at the top loses everything? When someone who was once worshipped and respected becomes an exile, condemned to darkness? Lucifer, the brightest angel, now wandered through the vastness of the cosmos, humiliated and defeated. But within him something grew even stronger than before: hatred. He would not accept this defeat. If he could not rule the heavens, he would find another realm to call his own, and he knew exactly where to start. Many ask, why did Lucifer turn his attention to earth? The answer may be more shocking than you think. According to biblical tradition, God had created a new world, a special planet filled with life. And at the center of this creation was humanity, a race unlike anything that had ever existed, created in the image and likeness of God. To Lucifer, this was unacceptable. How dare the Creator give such importance to mere mortals, while he, the most beautiful and powerful of angels, had been rejected? Humanity was the key to his revenge. It was then that he devised his first great plan: the fall of man. In the account of Genesis, we see the serpent, the symbol of deception, appearing to Eve in the Garden of Eden. But this was not an ordinary serpent. According to various interpretations, this was the form Lucifer took to carry out his revenge. He did not need to use force or violence. He used the same weapon that led to his fall: persuasion. The dialogue between the serpent and Eve was more than just a simple deception. It was a meticulously calculated manipulation. Surely you will not die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Genesis 3:4-5. Notice the pattern. The same desire that corrupted Lucifer was planted in the mind of humanity. He made Eve desire something she already had, the likeness of God, but in a distorted way, and the plan worked. Humanity fell. From that moment on, the dominion over the earth was taken by him. Satan became the prince of this world, as mentioned in John 12:31. He no longer needed to fight directly against God. His new goal was simple: to draw creation away from its creator, to generate chaos and to ensure that no human would ever find redemption. But this was just the first phase of his revenge. How did Lucifer continue his influence throughout history? What were his greatest manipulations? And what will be his ultimate fate? Subscribe and leave your like so you don't miss anything. Since the dawn of humanity, the world has always been divided between light and darkness. But what if I told you that this division was not a mere accident? That since the fall of man, an invisible force has been working behind the scenes of history, shaping empires, religions, and even political events? Many believe that evil always appears in an obvious way with clear signs. But what if the enemy's true strategy was different? What if Lucifer had learned that the best way to dominate was not through direct war, but through influence? This strategy became clear over the centuries. Pagan religions that worshipped mysterious deities, secret cults that revered the serpent, kings and emperors who claimed to have a divine right to rule. All of these manifestations may have a connection to the first rebel of the universe. In Babylon, one of the oldest civilizations, occult rituals were common. Worship of gods like Marduk and Ishtar often involved sacrifices and esoteric practices that echoed the principles of rebellion against the Creator. In Egypt, the pharaohs considered themselves living gods, promoting the idea that man could elevate himself above his natural condition, the same idea Lucifer planted in Eden. In ancient Rome, emperors demanded to be worshipped as divine, turning pride and arrogance into a system of government. What did all these civilizations have in common? The desire for absolute power, the same desire that cast Lucifer down from heaven now guided the destiny of kings and rulers. But his influence did not stop there. It infiltrated ideologies, philosophical movements, and even popular culture. Today, the presence of this rebellious spirit can still be seen. The idea that there is no right or wrong, only choices, reflects the Luciferian philosophy, which encourages the pursuit of personal power above any moral principle. Pop culture is filled with references to him. Movies, TV shows, songs, and even brands use symbols and narratives that exalt rebellion, the pursuit of forbidden knowledge, and the idea that true power lies in those who break free from the rules imposed by a creator. But all of this is part of an even greater plan. Lucifer didn't just influence humanity throughout history. He has a final goal. What does he truly want? What does prophecy say about the end of his reign? Don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Lucifer has not only influenced humanity, he has been following a plan that spans centuries, shaping empires, religions, and ideologies. But the question that few ask is, what is the true goal of the fallen angel? Does he just want revenge, or is there something much greater behind his actions? To understand his intentions, we must remember his nature. Lucifer never wanted wanted to be just a rebel. He wanted to rule. He wanted to be God. But after his defeat in heaven and his influence on earth, he realized something. He could not defeat God directly. So what was his new goal? To take creation for himself. If he couldn't destroy God, he would destroy his work. He would lead humanity away from the Creator and create his own kingdom, where he would be worshipped as he had always desired. The biblical prophecies speak of a time when Lucifer will attempt his final move. The book of Revelation describes the rise of a global power, where a charismatic leader will bring a false peace and be worshipped by multitudes. This event has been associated with the Antichrist, a figure who will rule the world before Christ's return. The prophecy suggests that through this leader, Lucifer will finally attempt to establish his dominion over humanity. For a brief moment, it will seem as if he has won. His reign on earth will be strong, his influence unquestionable. But there's a problem: he is not God. And it is at this moment that the climax of the prophecy comes. The book of Revelation describes a final battle where Christ returns and destroys Lucifer's forces. The fallen angel, along with his followers, will finally be defeated and cast into the lake of fire, where he will be tormented for all eternity. Unlike his initial fall, this one will be definitive. He will no longer be able to deceive, influence, or rise again. But what does all of this mean for humanity? Lucifer's fate is sealed, but what about the fate of those still living under his influence? Is there still time to escape his manipulation? Many people believe that the battle between good and evil is a thing of the past, something that happened thousands of years ago. But what if I told you that this war is still happening, that Lucifer has never stopped acting and that his plans are still in motion today? Throughout history, Lucifer has always used deception as his primary weapon. He rarely acts directly. He prefers to hide behind ideas, movements, and even belief systems that seem harmless at first glance. The Bible calls him the prince of this world, John 12:31, indicating that he has influence over political, cultural, and even religious systems. Many scholars and theologians point out that there are clear patterns indicating his influence on modern society. The inversion of values. What was once considered wrong is now celebrated. What was once seen as virtue is now ridiculed. The idea that each person should be their own god without the need for absolute morality. The trivialization of the occult, symbols, rituals, and practices that were once secret are now normalized in pop culture. The exaltation of rebellion. The idea that rules should be broken and that submission to authority is negative. According to biblical prophecy, Lucifer's influence would increase before the end. The world would become more chaotic. People would drift away from the truth, and corruption would spread across all nations. The book of Revelation describes a scenario where humanity will be divided between those who follow the Creator and those who fall for the enemy's illusion. But there is one final event that will mark his ultimate attempt at domination: the rise of the Antichrist. The prophecy says that a world leader will rise, bringing promises of peace and unity but hiding a dark purpose. He will deceive millions and demand worship, thus fulfilling Lucifer's original desire to be exalted as a god. But this will also be the beginning of his end. But is there still time to escape this influence? How can we protect ourselves from the final deception? Have you ever stopped to think about how Lucifer managed to deceive a third of the angels in heaven? If celestial beings who saw God's glory every day were persuaded by him, what does this mean for us humans, who don't have that direct vision of the divine? Now imagine the impact of this same power of deception, operating on earth for thousands of years. If Lucifer could convince angels to rebel, how has he been manipulating humanity throughout the centuries? Lucifer's main weapon is not force, but lies. He doesn't need to force anyone to follow him. He just distorts the truth, so subtly that people believe they are choosing the right path on their own. His main strategies include distorting the truth, turning what is right into wrong, and what is wrong into right, creating distractions, keeping people busy with pleasures and worldly problems so that they never think about the spiritual, promoting false guides, religious, ideological, or political leaders who appear benevolent but lead people away from the true light, instigating pride, making people believe they don't need God, that they can find their own enlightenment. Stop and observe modern society. People are increasingly drifting away from true spirituality, more consumed by a lifestyle that makes them prisoners of desires, status, and power. Is all of this just a coincidence? Or are we witnessing a millennia-old plan in action? If there is a creator, and if he revealed his will to humanity, why is there so much effort to discredit this truth? Why is there so much resistance against those who seek the divine? Lucifer has always operated in the shadows, but his biggest lie is making the world believe that he doesn't exist. For if no one believes in his existence, no one will protect themselves from his influences. The good news is that despite all the deception, there is still a way out. The truth has never been destroyed, only obscured. Those who seek the truth with an open heart can find it. it, but time is running out. If the prophecy is right, we are nearing the final outcome of the battle between light and darkness. But how will this battle end? What will be Lucifer's final moment? Since the beginning of time, this battle was destined to happen. There is no turning back. There are no more deceptions. The final moment of the war between good and evil is coming, but how will this happen? Will Lucifer have one last chance at victory, or is his destiny already sealed? Sacred texts describe an unprecedented event, Armageddon, the final great conflict between the divine forces and Lucifer's armies. The book of Revelation states that for a short period, the fallen angel will gather all the nations for his final battle. He will be in total control of earth, deceiving kings, leaders, and crowds. His influence will be so great that many will believe he has truly won. But then the unexpected happens. At the climax of this war, Christ returns, this time not as the sacrificial lamb, but as a warrior king. The heavenly forces descend for the final confrontation, and Lucifer's fate is finally sealed. The battle, which seemed inevitable and prolonged, is actually short. For how could a created being ever defeat its creator? Lucifer, who spent millennia deceiving and seducing, now faces his greatest truth. He never had a chance of winning. His kingdom, his influence, his followers, all crumble before the true divine glory. And then the final judgment occurs. Lucifer and his fallen angels are cast into the lake of fire, a place of eternal torment, from which they will never emerge. But not only him, those who chose to follow his path, rejecting the truth, share in his fate. The separation between light and darkness is now final. If Lucifer and his followers are destroyed, what happens to the rest of humanity? What happens to those who resisted the deception and chose the truth? For millennia, humanity lived under the influence of Lucifer. He deceived, corrupted, and attempted to take control of the world for himself. But now it's all over. His fate has been sealed, his lies destroyed, and his rebellion has come to an end. But what happens now? If evil has been eradicated, what will the future of humanity be? According to the sacred texts, after Lucifer's defeat, a new world will be established. A world without pain, without suffering, without lies. The Bible describes this moment as a new heaven and a new earth. Revelation 21:1. This means that everything will be restored to its original form before the corruption of sin. For the first time since Eden, humanity will be free from all evil. There will be no more wars, diseases, hunger, or sorrow. Death, which was the greatest consequence of the fall, will no longer exist. God himself will wipe away every tear and peace will reign forever. But what about those who resisted Lucifer's lies? Those who did not fall for his empty promises? According to the scriptures, these will be the heirs of the new kingdom. They will live in the presence of the Creator, ruling and enjoying true freedom, a freedom that Lucifer could never offer. But there's one question that remains. Is this promise for everyone? The answer is simple. Only for those who choose the truth. The great battle may be predestined to happen, but the fate of each person is still in their own hands. And that's the most important question of all. Which side of history will you be on? Now I want to know your opinion. Does this story make sense to you? Do you believe that Lucifer still influences the world? Or do you think this is all just a myth? Leave your comment, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, because there's still so much to explore about the mysteries surrounding this enigmatic being.